Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Imagine a flower, but not the kind you're used to. Not soft, not velvety,
Yeah.
not fragile.
Okay.
I want you to picture something that looks incredibly vibrant. Bright yellow, maybe a deep sunset orange. But if you were to reach out and touch it, it wouldn't feel like a flower at all. It would feel engineered.
Engineered like plastic.
Even stranger, like paper. Dry, crackling paper.
Whoa!
Today we are looking at a plant that feels so fake you'd swear it was a prop from a craft store, but no, it's growing right out of the dirt. And to understand it, we aren't just looking at a botany textbook. We are looking at the notes of a self-described software plumber.
A software plumber, that is a very specific job description for a gardener.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are analyzing a blog post from keonmeng.org, specifically an entry dated today, January 26th, 2026. And the post is titled, Notes on Gardening, Part 788, My Encounter with the Strawflower.
Part 788.
788.
That is a lot of gardening notes.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. And we are absolutely going to get into the sheer volume of data this guy produces because it's mind-blowing. But the premise today is fascinating. We have an author, Ang, who spends his nights deep in the weeds of open source software and Haskell programming.
Okay, so very logical, very structural systems.
Exactly. And then he steps into his garden with that same analytical mindset to debug a strange plant.
I love that crossover. You have the messy, unpredictable chaos of nature viewed through the lens of someone who expects code to compile cleanly. It's a clash of worlds.
Precisely. So our mission today is twofold. First, we need to unpack the biology of this strawflower. Scientifically, it's Xerochrysum bracteatum. We need to figure out why it fooled our software plumber and how its biology is basically a cheat code for longevity.
And second,
we're going to look at how this one flower fits into the massive, massive data log of a life that Ang is building.
let's dig in.
So let's start with what he calls the case of mistaken identity. The source material opens with an admission of error. Ang admits right off the bat that when he first saw this plant, his brain just categorized it as a chrysanthemum.
That is a very understandable error. I mean, if you look at them from a distance, the strawflower and the chrysanthemum share a lot of visual DNA.
Right.
They're both part of the Asteraceae family, the daisy family. So they have that iconic central disc and what look like radiating petals.
But here is the thing. For Ang, identifying it as a chrysanthemum wasn't a happy discovery. It wasn't like, oh, look, a lovely mum. It was more like spotting a recurring bug in his code that he thought he had patched years ago. He actually mentions he had little success with chrysanthemums in the past.
Right. He lists his failed attempts in the notes. He tried growing them from seeds. Failed. He tried cuttings. Failed.
So it seems like the chrysanthemum was his nemesis in the garden.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. It sounds like he had written off the chrysanthemum as deprecated code, to use his language.
Yeah.
Too buggy to maintain. So he sees this new plant, assumes it's the same fussy flower, and probably just braces himself for another failure.
He's probably thinking, great, another thing that's going to wilt on me in 3 days.
But then the correction happens. And this is the part that really highlights his whole process. He didn't figure it out while he was digging in the dirt.
Okay.
He didn't figure it out while watering it. He figured it out during the documentation phase.
The documentation phase. So while he was writing about it.
Yes. He says he realized the mistake while drafting this post.
That's significant. It means he wasn't just gardening for the sake of gardening. He was gardening to capture data. And in the act of writing down his observations, entry 788, he was forced to verify his inputs. He realized, wait, this doesn't match the specs for a chrysanthemum?
It's almost like rubber duck debugging, but for plants.
That's a perfect analogy.
You know how programmers talk to a rubber duck to explain their code, and that's how they find the error? He was explaining the plant to his blog, and that's when he realized he was wrong.
And that leads to the reclassification. It's the strawflower. And finding that out changes everything because unlike the fussy chrysanthemum, this thing is built like a tank.
It really is. And that brings us to the core biological twist, the feature that defines this plant. The reason it fooled him, and the reason it's so unique, is that when you look at a strawflower, you are not seeing what you think you are seeing.
It's the optical illusion of the plant world.
I'm looking at the photo in the notes right now, and for you listening, just imagine a bright, sunny, daisy-like bloom. I see petals, yellows, bronzes, oranges. They look soft, but the source says those aren't petals.
Correct. Technically speaking, they are not petals, they are bracts.
Okay, we need to pause on that term, bracts.
Yeah.
B-R-A-C-T-S. What is the actual difference between a petal and a bract? Because to my eye, if it looks like a petal and acts like a petal.
It's a petal, yeah, I get it.
Right.
Think of it this way. A petal is usually a specialized structure designed solely to attract pollinators. It's often delicate, filled with fluid, and ephemeral. It's, expensive for the plant to maintain.
Right.
Once it does its job attracting a bee, it wilts and falls off. A bract, however, is a modified leaf.
A leaf. So it's just a leaf playing dress up.
Essentially, yes. In a lot of plants, leaves evolve to change color or shape to serve a different purpose, usually protection or attraction. Think of a poinsettia at Christmas.
The big red parts.
The big red parts that everyone thinks are the flowers, those aren't flowers, they are bracts. They're just leaves that turned red.
So the strawflower pulled a similar trick.
Exactly. But the strawflower took it a step further. It evolved these bracts to mimic petals perfectly in shape and color, but it kept the structural integrity of a leaf.
And Eng describes the texture very specifically. He says they are dry and papery. And he notes that if you touch them, they make a distinct crackling sound.
And that crackle is the sound of efficiency. A normal rose petal is soft because it's full of water. It relies on turgor pressure to keep its shape. If it loses water, it flops.
Right.
These bracts are dry. They have low water content from the start. They're essentially pre-dried structures.
It's wild to imagine walking up to a living, blooming plant, touching the flower, and having it crunch like dry paper. It completely explains the common name he mentions, the paper daisy.
It sounds like an origami project.
It really does. And that structure is why he also calls it everlasting, because they aren't water-filled petals, they don't wilt. The mechanism that causes a normal flower to turn into much loss of water pressure, it just doesn't apply here.
The bracts are already dry. They're stiff.
He mentions that they are a staple in dried floral arrangements because of this. You cut a strawflower, and it just stays. It retains the color and the shape for years.
Years. Compare that to the chrysanthemum he was struggling with. That requires constant care, water, deadheading. You look at it wrong, it might droop. The strawflower is, in software terms, a stable release.
Huh. A stable release.
It's a write once, run forever kind of object.
And for a gardener, that's a huge win. He notes it's a perennial and it has few pest issues.
That's the software plumber in him appreciating a robust system. Low maintenance, high uptime, it doesn't crash.
Doesn't get bugs, literally and metaphorically.
Exactly.
It's interesting how his appreciation shifts once he realizes what it is. He went from, oh no, another fussy chrysanthemum to, wow, look at this resilient machine. He even recommends it to people looking for resilient and enduring touch in their garden.
Enduring is the key word. In a world, especially the tech world, where Ang lives, where things become obsolete in 6 months, where code gets refactored constantly, finding something biological that essentially refuses to decay it's very appealing.
So we have a plant that tricks you with fake petals, crackles like paper, and refuses to die. That is a solid discovery for a Monday morning.
It really is.
But I want to zoom out now. Because as we touched on in the intro, this isn't just some random gardening tip. This is entry number 788.
788.
That number is just staggering to me. And that's just the notes on gardening category. I spent some time clicking around the sidebar of this blog, kianmeng.org, and the sheer volume of data is relentless. It feels like he is logging his entire existence.
It's an archive of a polymath. You aren't just seeing gardening. You see notes on Haskell programming, notes on fish keeping, notes on dieting, notes on AI.
I was looking at the archives on the side. He has posted daily or near daily for years. I looked at the stats. December 2025, 62 posts. November, 60 posts, go back and back. 2024, 2023, always around 60 posts a month.
So he's posting twice a day, every single day.
Every single day.
That level of discipline is incredibly rare. It suggests that for Ang, the act of doing the thing, whether it's gardening or coding, isn't finished until it's documented. The documentation is part of the execution.
It's almost like if he doesn't write it down, it didn't happen.
Or maybe, if he doesn't write it down, he hasn't fully understood it yet. Remember, he figured out the strawflower identity during the writing. Writing is his tool for thinking.
Let's look at the mix of topics from just this month, January 2026. It paints such a vivid picture of his mind. On one hand, you have the strawflower post. On the other, you have a post titled Notes on Haskell Programming. Part 41.
Yeah.
Unit Testing.
And right next to that, Notes on Fish Keeping, Part 175, Decoding Duckweed.
And deep dive into Lai Cha, under the dieting category. Lai Cha is a type of tea soup, right?
Yes, it's a traditional Hakka tea-based gruel or soup. So he's analyzing his lunch with the same intensity he's analyzing his code.
It's a beautiful juxtaposition. He's applying the same rigorous observation to a floating aquarium plant like duckweed as he is to functional programming languages.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a connection? I mean, is there a thread that ties unit testing in Haskell to the Strawflower?
Oh, absolutely. Think about what we just learned about the Strawflower. Why does he like it? He explicitly calls it resilient and enduring. Now, consider Haskell.
Haskell is a programming language, right? I know it's considered kind of difficult.
It is. It's a functional programming language known for being very strict, very mathematical, and very robust. In Haskell, you build systems that are designed not to break. You want purity, you want predictability, you want immutability, meaning things don't change unexpectedly.
So the Strawflower is the Haskell of the garden.
In a way, yes. Think about it. It's structurally sound, it has low overhead, it maintains its state, its color and shape indefinitely. It is immutable. Compare that to the Chrysanthemum, which failed him.
Right.
That was buggy code. That was a memory leak. The Strawflower is the optimized bug-free version.
That is a brilliant way to put it. It explains why he's so taken with it.
Yeah.
It fits his operating system.
Exactly. He sees a plant that behaves the way good code should behave. And look at the fish-keeping notes he's writing alongside this. The blackbeard algae, or relocating the fries.
Relocating the fries refers to baby fish, right?
Yep.
Not French fries.
Yes, baby fish are called fry, but look at the titles. These are troubleshooting logs. He encounters a problem in the tank-like blackbeard algae, which is a notorious pest in aquariums. He analyzes it, he fixes it, he documents it.
It's the same loop as debugging software.
So whether he's dealing with algae in a tank, a bug in Haskell, or a misidentified flower, the process is the same. Observe, hypothesize, correct, document.
And the document part is the crucial step that most people skip.
It really is. Most of us solve a problem in the garden and just move on. Aang writes it down. And because he writes it down, he builds this massive searchable database of his own life.
It makes me wonder about that documentation phase he mentioned earlier. If he hadn't forced himself to write entry 788, he might still think he was failing at growing chrysanthemums.
That is the power of the deep dive habit, if I can borrow our own phrase. By forcing himself to externalize his thoughts, to write down, I saw this plant, it looks like this, he forced his brain to verify the data. The documentation is the debugging tool. It exposes the flaws in your own thinking.
It's fascinating. The blog itself is like a garden. You have these different plots, the Haskell plot, the fish plot, the photography plot, and he's tending to all of them every single day.
And just like the Strawflower, this archive is becoming everlasting. By writing 788 notes on gardening, he's built a knowledge base that won't wilt. It's there for him and for us years down the line.
It really puts my sporadic journaling to shame.
I know the feeling.
But seriously, it paints a picture of a learner, someone who is just genuinely curious about how the world works, whether that world is inside a computer server or a flower pot.
And he's willing to admit when he's wrong. That's the other key takeaway. The post starts with an admission of error. Initially, I mistook this plant.
Right. No ego, just data correction.
Precisely. A true engineer's mindset. The goal isn't to be right initially. The goal is to get the system working and understand the root cause. Once he found the correct classification, Xerochrysum bracteatum, he could unlock all the rest of the data.
The bracts, the perennial nature, the pest resistance.
Exactly. If he had stuck to his ego and insisted it was a chrysanthemum, he would have treated it wrong and probably killed it.
It's all about that process. I want to go back to the sensory details for a second. We talk about the crackle, but there's something about the name Strawflower that feels so humble.
It is humble. It's descriptive. It tells you exactly what you're getting. It's not trying to be a royal velvet rose. It's a Strawflower. It's utilitarian.
And yet, he finds beauty in it. He recommends it.
I think he finds beauty in its function. You know, in design and engineering, there is an aesthetic to things that work perfectly, a tool that fits the hand, or a line of code that executes without waste. The Strawflower is a beautiful piece of biological engineering.
It solved the problem of how do I stay colorful without drying out by just not using wet petals.
Lateral thinking at its finest. It's like the plant said, I can't afford to waste water on petals, so I'll just dye these leaves yellow and call it a day.
And it worked.
And it worked. Evolution is the ultimate engineer. It iterates over millions of years until it finds the most efficient solution.
And Aang is just the plumber taking notes on nature's source code.
It fits perfectly.
Before we wrap up, I just want to acknowledge the sheer variety of stuff this guy is into. We mentioned the Leicha diet deep dive. We mentioned the blackbeard algae. It's a reminder that being well-informed doesn't mean knowing everything about one thing. It means being curious about everything.
The polymath approach, it allows you to see connections. Maybe the patience he learned from the failed chrysanthemum experiment helped him debug a Haskell issue.
Or maybe this systematic approach to relocating fries in his fish tank made him a better gardener.
Everything connects.
When you document it all, yes, the patterns emerge. You start to see that systems are systems, whether they are biological or digital. They all have inputs, outputs, bugs, and features.
Well said.
So to recap our deep dive today, the strawflower is a master of disguise. It uses modified leaves called bracts to mimic petals, giving it a paper-like texture and incredible longevity. It fooled our author, Ang, into thinking it was a fussy chrysanthemum, but it turned out to be a resilient, pest-free tank of a plant.
And it serves as a perfect symbol for the author himself, resilient, enduring, and structurally sound.
And it's just one entry and a massive daily chronicle of a life spent learning.
Entry 788, to be exact.
Incredible. So here's a thought I want to leave you with today. We talked about how the strawflower swaps out fragile petals for tough, modified leaves to ensure it lasts forever. It mimics the delicate thing, but uses a robust material.
A structural substitution.
Exactly. So in your own work or your studies or just your daily life, where are you using a petal when you should be using a bract?
That is a great question.
What fragile process or habit are you holding on to that could be replaced by something tougher, something that sounds a little different, maybe crackles a bit, but will stay vibrant long after the season ends?
Look for the paper flowers in your own systems. Look for the solutions that are low maintenance but high impact.
Go find your strawflower.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, write it down when you find it. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you in the next entry.
Stay curious.